On drones for a second, what was the thinking behind sending additional detect and track systems to Picatinny Arsenal and Naval Weapons Station Earl? And are there other facilities that might get more of these systems in the future?
Yeah, so a couple things. So first of all, again, a lot of focus on this right now for all the obvious reasons, some of which includes those sitting in this room here. And so we're going to take this seriously. And so ensuring that installations, in this case Picatinny and Earl, have the capabilities they need to detect, to identify and track as appropriate in the event there's drone activity near those facilities. To your other question, this is exactly what the counter unmanned systems strategy that DoD put out recently talks about, is looking at what are those priority installations, what are the trends when it comes to unmanned systems or unmanned aerial systems as well, and what does the DoD need to be doing in order to address that issue, particularly when it poses a potential threat to our personnel or installations. The thing is that I think we've all recognized the fact that unmanned systems are here to stay. They're a part of modern warfare, and whether it's here in the homeland or overseas, we want to make sure that we're doing due diligence to protect our forces and protect our equities from a national security standpoint. So, I think you'll see us continuing to look at that, and it's something we're going to continue to take seriously.
What systems are being sent and when will they arrive?
In addition to some of the capabilities that are already on these installations, these capabilities essentially will enhance space authorities' ability to detect, identify, track UASs. So, for example, this could include active or passive detection capabilities, plus capabilities like the system known as drone busters, which, as you know, employs non-kinetic means to interrupt drone signals, affect their ability to operate. All right, Kelly.
You mentioned that it wasn't all that unusual to see some drones over military bases. You mentioned this is becoming more and more of a common occurrence in the use of drones. But what would constitute it as a threat? What is the benchmark, and have you been communicating with other military installations to be ready for more of these drones, and how to spot if it could be a threat before it might be too late?
Yeah. Again, it won't surprise you. This is not a new conversation for us within DoD. I mean, as I highlighted, drones flying, whether here or overseas, is not something new, right? And especially in the United States with 1 million registered drones and 8,500 flying on any given day. Similar to vehicles that may inadvertently approach a base, the same can be true for drones. As to what constitute a threat, that obviously has to be assessed on a case-by-case basis, depending on what the drone is doing, where it's going, and so I'm not going to provide a blanket definition, but again, the idea here is that by providing training, capabilities, resources, commanders are able to assess and make those determinations. The other thing that I think it's very important to remember is that when we're here in the homeland, the authorities that the U.S. military has to detect and track these kinds of things is much different than it would be if we were in a combat zone. In other words, the intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance capabilities that we can employ outside the United States are much different for very good reasons. We don't collect intelligence on American citizens. And so that, of course, appropriately requires to work very closely with local, state, and federal authorities, law enforcement authorities, when necessary to address these threats.
And you mentioned the White House and the administration did share a bit of their assessment of what these drones are, but we know lawmakers are being briefed on Capitol Hill, and members of the public, this isn't really, sitting well with them. They aren't really kind of taking this explanation for those that really saw these drones with their own eyes. So what would you say to them?
Well, again, I definitely don't want to minimize the significant interest and the concern that people have. But again, I think in the way that you now have this modern technology and the ability, you could go out of here right after this briefing and go and buy a drone and you could fly it around your neighborhood, and as long as you're flying it appropriately and not in restricted airspace, there's nothing illegal about flying that drone. So again, just providing some perspective here, and I think the joint statement that we put out highlighted that the assessment in terms of what these reported sightings could be in terms of a combination of lawful commercial drones, hobbyist drones, law enforcement drones, as well as manned fixed-wing aircraft. Again, don't want to minimize it, but I think it's important to understand too just the volume of drone activity that will likely only increase into the future, and the fact that it is legal to fly drones, and if they go into restricted airspace, of course, we'll take appropriate action.
Just why does it have to be a classified briefing if these are just hobbyist drones, they're not military drones? Why is it a classified briefing on the Capitol Hill?
I'd have to refer you to Congress on that. Again, sharing as much information as we can here. I don't have the briefing in front of me, so I can't tell you specifically, what aspects are classified or not. I can assure you, though, that again, we are sharing as much information as we can based on what we know. Let me go to the other side of the room here.